everybody for coming. Be sure to pick up the handouts that are on the cart. Official kickoff time this week, I believe, is 12:01. That'll be Eastern time, 12:01. And we should know shortly here about the kick time for Missouri. Thank you.
Thanks, Chloe. Well, I think any chance you get to go to Nashville and play Vandy, I know they got a great program. Derek does a really good job with his team. You know, we did a tremendous job last year against us from a special team standpoint, really dominating and controlled the game up front with our defensive line. So got a lot of challenges ahead of us in regards to preparing for Vandy and, you know, wanting to keep the team's mentality of getting better and improving each week, which they've done up to this point. And they do that, by the way. They practice on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so that's the challenge we're presenting with now. It only gets greater because of the attention surrounding the team, but for us, it's really about getting better and focusing on the next opponent, and that's where we're at.
Raise your hand if you have a question, please.
Kirby, I know this is no surprise. You'll get asked this one, but will Jake start Saturday, and how will you kind of handle that moving forward? Will it be evaluations in practice, ball games? How will that kind of work?
Yeah, it'll be just like last week. It'll be evaluated in practice, and I do think that Jacob is much closer to 100%. Obviously, last week he didn't get cleared until somewhere around midweek, so for him, it was important to knock the rust off. He felt like he did that in that game. He got to go out there, and he'll compete this week. We'll do it like we do every position.
But can you say that will Jake start, or have you made that decision?
Again, we compete every position every week. It's not something that we have to announce. We're not starting announcing who the starting left corner or right corner is. We're going to announce it based on how they practice.
Kirby, what's the status of Trenton Thompson's injury?
Yeah, Trenton's injury is a sprained MCL. He'll be out for this game, but it wasn't as bad as we originally thought, which was good news. But basically after this week, he'll be week to week.
Coach, regarding the quarterback situation, we focus a lot on, you know, who's starting, obviously, but can you talk about just what a good situation you suddenly found yourself in? You didn't know at the beginning of the season really how well Jake could perform, and you know a lot about Jacob, so just feeling about your quarterback position now as opposed to earlier in the year.
Yeah, you got to feel better that you've got two that have played, because we've certainly got that. But I'd say this, I felt much better going into the season. I'm talking post-scrimmages, post-camp. Felt much better about the quarterback situation because of the camp that Jake Fromm had and the growth that Jacob Eason had. So I did feel better, although you could say, well, you've never seen Fromm play. I count scrimmages as playing because we set them up like games. I got to see him in the spring game. So felt much better that we had those two guys that could execute at a high level and do good things. They're different quarterbacks, but in some ways they do some of the things similar, and they'll continue to compete in that regard. And it is comforting to know you've got two experienced, where last year we really had one experienced, and going into this year we had one experienced quarterback. And now I'd like to think we've got two that have played at least a complete season or 4 games in the case of Fromm. 5 games, 4.5.
You said at the top, you talked about last year's game with the special teams, and I know that was probably like the low watermark from last year as far as that goes. When you look at where you are now compared to last year, is it more about the time you've put in to special teams, or would you say it's the personnel?
It's both. I mean, I can't say that we've put more time in. We've just tried to emphasize it. We've gotten a little better at kicking the ball. We've gotten a little better at punting the ball. We've gotten better on those units executing. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we put a huge emphasis and premium on playing the best players on that. I don't think that we didn't do that last year. I just think we had a lot of guys that were playing a lot of snaps, and it seems a little more spread out now as far as the number of snaps guys are having to play and using that total 70 as opposed to 55 or 50, whatever the number was last year.
Following up, did that start of the game stick with you in terms of not only the special teams miscues, but then the substitution infraction and just everything that followed with that?
Yeah, a lot of errors in that game, and give them credit. They caused it by what they did on their kickoff return. They kicked the ball in the corner, and Reggie stepped out. We had 2 returners back and tried to field some rugby punts, which are really tough. The way the kid was kicking the ball, I mean, there was 200 yards in field position that were give or take lost. and we got to do a better job in regards to that.
Kirby, you mentioned the attention in your opening statement. What are the specific things you do as a coach to keep your players from buying into the hype?
Well, we practice, and when we practice hard, and we show kids the tape. We're very honest with them. I think when you watch the tape, everybody can get humbled by the tape. You know, we got beat. We got beat up at positions. We got blocked at positions. So Monday is all we're worried about, and we're really focused on. We call Monday Block Protection Monday because we go out and really work on blocking people on offense or protecting blocks on defense, and that's one of the number one things we can get better at. And if you get better at that, it doesn't matter what you call a lot of times. You just get better at the fundamentals, and we try to humble the guys by showing them the honest truth.
Going off that, Tennessee was complaining about the way Georgia was blocking on Saturday. How has the defensive line evolved over the past 2 years, and maybe what have you brought specifically from Bama here?
A two-part question. They were complaining about the way we were blocking on defense, or about offensive blocking?
Defensive blocking. Their O-line was complaining.
Gotcha. That's confusing because I don't know. I mean, our defensive line is supposed to strike hard, come out of their hips, and play really physical. And we try to do that. We try to generate power by the way we strike people and get off blocks. I think everybody in the country does that, actually, to try to get off blocks and run to the ball. But we really emphasize it on Mondays and try to get better at it. And, I mean, there's nothing that I brought from Alabama in regards to that. It's just football. It's not a secret to anybody. And we just try to emphasize it really hard. I think our defensive staff does a good job of doing that.
Talking about the improvement right now on offense and special teams, how much do Jay Johnson and Scott Fountain have to do with that? Guys who were coordinators last year who have been brought in to help Chaney and Beamer with that?
I certainly think they have a role. I mean, there's a reason we brought them here from a schematic standpoint. They're able to help coach the coaches, I like to say, and give fresh and new ideas. I think both of them have brought some expertise and some value, and I don't think people, recognize that there's more to the game than just throwing somebody out there and saying kick the ball, or throwing a guy out there and say, hey, go play quarterback or run this play. I think new ideas make you better, and I think anytime you get new ideas that are thought-provoking, for me as a coach, as a coordinator, it always helps. It doesn't mean we're necessarily going to do it that way, but we certainly think about it, and it's good information, so it helps.
Kirby, in terms of keeping the team's mental intensity, you've obviously been at the stage of the season where Alabama, where the team was playing at a high level, winning games. This team maybe hasn't done that. These players, what can you share with them about how to stay at the same level?
Humility is a week away. I mean, that's what we talk to them about all the time. And, again, humility comes through practice, going good on good, competing, getting better. It's a 100-yard sprint, and we're at 40 yards. Who cares? They don't ever talk about who won the first 50 meters of the 100-meter race. I mean, I've never heard anybody talk about it. No, they don't care. So a lot of football to play, and we're focused on Vanny.
Kirby, at the beginning of the season, you talked a lot about how there was a significant gap between the ones and the twos in the secondary. How do you think that the twos have progressed, and do you think the gap has shortened since then?
Well, some of our twos have changed. So in some instances it's closed, in some instances it's widened. I think it just depends on what specific position you're talking about. We've certainly lost some guys, got some guys back. It's helped with some depth. And the guys that have had an opportunity to make plays and made plays. Look, in the secondary, it's a lonely world. It's a feast or famine. It's all or nothing. The guy that makes a player, he doesn't a lot of times. So we've had a couple guys, Bake and Tyreek, make some plays that have been big and momentum type plays, and we got to continue to do that.
Kirby, obviously Vanderbilt wants to run the ball, but what have you seen out of Kyle Shermer and his ability? Do they have more of a vertical passing game that you have to worry about this year?
Yeah, and first of all, he's very intelligent, does a great job with their offense. He'll be the best pure passing quarterback that we've played against. He does a really good job of putting him in the right play. You know he looks at the right things. He reads the coverages. He puts the ball where it's supposed to be thrown, and does a really good job of doing that. So it'll be our biggest test from a quarterback standpoint, defensing the quarterback as far as a thrower, and they've got some good wideouts with them. So I got a lot of respect for him. And I thought from our game on last year, he was still kind of growing up in our game, and then from our game on, he played lights out, really good, and has only improved.
Ralph, we have a question here. I mean, obviously, they're leading rusher of all time, but they kind of had a tough time getting him going this year. I know they've played Bama and Florida the last 2 weeks, but anything you've seen as far as what they've kind of struggled to try to get him on track this year?
No, nothing I can say that I've seen him as far as struggling. I know this, he runs with a lot of power for a smaller back. I mean, I saw him run over a safety from Florida, and he did the same with the guy, Ronnie Harrison from Alabama. He plays with more power than you give him credit for. He's extremely elusive. He's dangerous out of the backfield. They do a good job getting the ball in the passing game. So he's one of the best electric players in our conference, and that's evidenced by his statistics. Lead rusher in their history.
Kirby, what factors have led to your red zone success offensively, and how hard did you guys attack that in the offseason?
Well, I think a lot of factors have led to it. The ability to run the ball a little better helps. We still aren't. Everybody thinks the efficiency is great, but we've got to score touchdowns. We had a situation the other day where had to kick a field goal, 2 field goals that we won't score touchdowns. So again, I talked about our efficiency rating is based on scored touchdowns over field goals, and that's not perfect. Where scoring has been, but there's a lot more to it, getting 4 more points on a touchdown than the other. Obviously, we focused on it, so that's been a help, and we've executed better. It's not that I thought we were doing anything wrong before. We're just doing what we do a little better.
Can you update us on Reggie Carter and his status for Saturday?
Yeah, don't know. He'll be day to day. We'll find out here in the next probably 24, 48 hours where he's at and see if he can go. Hope to have him available.
Kirby, clearly you're rolling a lot of D linemen in there, specifically with Trent being out. Is that who is primarily has to step up there, and can you kind of talk about how those other guys are doing?
Yeah, we rolled last year a lot of guys. It's just they're a year older, they're a year more mature. All those freshmen that had to play last year, it's paying off a lot now, because I know Tyler Clark's playing better than he did last year. He's grown up a year. Julian's playing better. Those guys have grown up and played more. With Trenton out, it's probably going to put a little more pressure on Mikael Carter to play a little more. David Marshall will play a little more. Tyler will probably take on a few more snaps, but we're going to continue to sub guys. Michael Barnett will get a few looks, and Daquan Hawkins will get a few looks.
Defensively, I know the guys are hungry for those interceptions. Last 2 games, you're seeing that. Is that credit to more the improved play up front and just consistency up there with Bellamy and Lorenzo, or is that just more awareness on the back end?
It helps having those guys up front playing well. It's not that I didn't think they were playing well. We're making some plays. I mean, called a couple tips, a couple overthrows that we missed maybe in the Notre Dame game or we dropped in other games. So I've always said those things come in bunches, and it's not like we're doing anything different. We're just catching the ones we're supposed to and capitalizing on those.
After the game on Saturday, I walked by your locker room and I thought the doors were going to blow off. You guys were so loud as soon as you walked in there, screaming, yelling. Can you describe how your players' confidence have changed since game 1?
Yeah, I think we've grown up a little bit as a team. I think they've seen the evidence in the practice habits they have. We didn't always get the results we wanted from our practice habits last year, and they've bought into the fact that if they're physical on Tuesday and Wednesday, they'll be physical on Saturday, and that's carried over. And I think we're just a year older, so I think that that practice habit has really been, that culture change has been good for them.
Just real quick on Dan Bellamy, he came back out with the club on his hand. How long will he have to wear that, and what effect is he going to have on his play?
Yeah, I hope it doesn't affect his play a lot. He'll probably have the club on there for practices for a while. In the game, we may be able to get him a splint or a little less, but he should be fine. He's going to practice today and go with it. And the position he plays, he's not having to carry the ball, he's not having to catch the ball a lot. So it's going to be striking and block protection stuff that he's going to use it for.
2 more questions, please.
I don't know if you've heard it. A lot of people say Georgia's defense right now is playing very Alabama-like. Do you think that's fair? Do you like that connotation.
I would argue that Russell would say they're playing junkyard dog-like, and that takes a lot more pride to me, being a Georgia alum, and the fact that our kids are playing hard and playing to a standard that was created a long time around here of flying to the ball and hitting people.
Last question?
Kirby, you mentioned the culture change. Did you know enough about the way things were here before to think that something major needed to change, or how did you approach that?
I wasn't concerned with the way it was before. I was only concerned with how I saw it being, and I thought that was important. It's nothing about before, because I wasn't here. You know, it was just more about the way I felt like good practices should be done, and from a depth standpoint, you got to have good numbers to be able to practice the way you want to practice, and we had to work to get towards that, and we're still striving to get what we need from a scout team standpoint, a rep standpoint, a physicality standpoint. We're trying to improve that every day.
Thank you.